As we turn our focus now to a major developing story in Apropos. We focus on the ongoing effect of Brexit on the UK. Since 2020, when the separation from the EU was finalised, the UK economy has been losing £100 billion each year. This figure is from Bloomberg. Consumers continue to feel the pain in both price rises and shortages of certain products. Getting goods into the UK is set to become a lot slower and more expensive from April the 30th. Tomorrow then, the second phase of the UK government's post-Brexit border target operating model will kick in. Some observers say this will mean steep increases in the cost of bringing almost everything into the United Kingdom. For instance, a lorry driver could be slapped with an extra tax of £761 UK for each load driven into Britain. This comes from the Cold Chain Federation, an industry lobby body. The same source says that costs for businesses who deal in plants and livestock could mean forking out an extra billion UK pounds each year. So a UK pound, that's 1.17 euros, 1.26 US dollars. We're joined by Iain Begg to discuss this. He is professor at the European Institute of the London School of Economics. Iain, thank you, sir, for being with us. Businesses set them for quite a hit from tomorrow.
Yes, there seems to be confusion about exactly how much the costs are going to be. I've just been listening to the debate in the House of Commons, and the minister is saying, no, it's nothing like these apocalyptic figures that are being mentioned, and the opposition saying it's all going to be chaos because we don't know. I think confusion and chaos are more likely to be the challenges rather than excessive costs. Although that said, it is going to add a little bit to the existing problem of cost of living, because inevitably, if truck drivers and others are forced to pay additional fees, they're going to pass that on to consumers.
Iain, but just looking at this coldly, this seems to be the hallmark of Brexit, the confusion and chaos that has followed.
Well, you may think that, but I couldn't possibly comment, although I will. I think the answer here is that so many things to do with Brexit were unplanned. It's well known that David Cameron actually banned his civil servants from preparing for Brexit as long ago as the referendum, and that's continued ever since. That they seem to be winging it when they're trying to work out the best way to deal with any kind of challenge. Now, what's happening with this particular change is that the UK has been resisting implementing this for quite some time because it knew it would cause problems. The UK used to be part of the food security and other aspects of the EU rules, and now it has to implement its own rules. It's hesitated to do so, and it's creating all kinds of problems at the borders. This is also true of what's happening in Ireland.
Any pretense then the Conservative Party had of being the party of business surely now is blown out the water, isn't it, given the way business is going to have these extra costs put in. But again, trying to sort of take the political aspect out of this, do you think whoever was in power now would have the same problem trying to sort out something that really seems to be almost impossible?
Well, it's not that challenging a thing to do, because you need to protect your border against the risks coming in from animal products or plant products which might contain disease. And it's true to say that if you don't do that, then you can get very significant problems arising. For example, an outbreak of foot and mouth if you don't check the animals. So checks have to take place. The problem is, do you trust your partners? And in most cases, I think it's fair to say that the EU, where most of the imports will be coming from, already does the kinds of checks that are necessary. And over the last 3 or 4 years, that's precisely what's been happening. There have not been additional British checks. But at some stage, the government had to deal with this and say, right, well, we're now out of the EU. We've been out for 4 years. It's time to implement these checks.
Now, Iain, some people voted for Brexit, some people voted against. The split was 51% for, 48% against back in June 2016. But those same people are consumers, and they have found themselves now with prices rising and in some cases shortages since Brexit. I know you don't have a crystal ball, and I know you're not a politician, but the people of Britain, you live in Britain yourself, sir, so maybe I should ask you, how are people going to cope with the changes this is going to make to the cost of living? Because inevitably, if there are more tariffs and taxes put on people bringing the goods into the country, that is passed on to the consumer.
It is, but let's try to be reasonable about this. The increase in consumer bills will be the order of say 0.2 percentage points of the actual cost, you don't really notice that in a context in which food prices are going up for other reasons. So I don't think it's going to be dramatic. It's just the additional nail in the coffin of those who believe that they've been badly let down by Brexit and think that yet another imposition is coming on us because of Brexit.
Iain, can I pause you there? Because I'm going to go to another report. Now, I'll get your thoughts on it afterwards, if you don't mind, sir. So please bear with me. In a way, same stable, different jockey, to coin a phrase. Brexit is the route of a row between Dublin, in the EU, of course, and London, out of the EU. Migrants crossing the border from the UK province of Northern Ireland into the Republic of Ireland. There's been a meeting this Monday of the Irish and British Interior Ministers. It's all in the wake, of course, of the UK's scheme to bounce its asylum seekers off to Rwanda in East Africa. Let's get our guests' take then. First, Caris Garland with this report.
A key condition of the Brexit deal, the land border between Ireland and Northern Ireland remains open with no immigration checks. And according to the Irish Justice Minister, 80% of the country's recent asylum seeker arrivals have crossed this border. To curb the influx, the Irish Prime Minister says his government's working on legislation to return asylum seekers to the UK.
Every country is entitled to have its own migration policy, but I certainly don't intend to allow anybody else's migration policy affect the integrity of our own one. And this country will not in any way, shape or form provide a loophole for anybody else's migration challenges.
It comes after British Parliament last week passed controversial legislation to send asylum seekers to Rwanda, with the government hoping to start deportations in 10 to 12 weeks. Ireland's Deputy Prime Minister said the crossings showed migrants were fearful of the law. Speaking to Sky News last week, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said that's exactly the point.
The deterrent is, according to your comment, already having an impact because people are worried about coming here.
The Irish Justice Minister was expected to discuss a potential return policy in a meeting with the British Home Secretary in London on Monday. A UK government source said it would not accept any asylum seekers from Ireland without a wider deal with the European Union.
So many questions. Let's bring back in Iain Begg, Professor at the European Institute of the London School of Economics, for his thoughts on the situation, sir. I'll give you that open one. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's irony piled upon irony piled upon irony. The first is that there was this huge difficulty over the last 3 or 4 years because of the way that Boris Johnson and his colleagues had negotiated Brexit, which led to the Northern Ireland Protocol and all the problems about having a border in the Irish Sea between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, but no border on the island of Ireland. That remains the case. It was somewhat diffused by having the Windsor Agreement negotiated by Rishi Sunak, but the fact remains that if somebody from another country ends up in Belfast, there's nothing to stop them crossing the border into Ireland. Ireland is part of the EU. Ireland's Supreme Court had said already that the Rwanda deal that has been passed in the UK is a risk for anybody coming in, so they should not be returning migrants to the UK. Naturally, the Irish government thinks, well, the UK can't be setting our immigration policy, so we want to return these migrants from Ireland back over the border into Northern Ireland. And then the UK says, well, wait a minute, France doesn't accept migrants being returned once they cross the channel from the UK back into France. So we want to deal with the EU. It's an impasse, and I really don't see an easy way out of it.
The Rwanda plan, which has cost upwards of £150 million, as I understand so far, you possibly know more than me. This is, am I hearing from you, this is added to the problem, it's exacerbated things?
Well, it may be. Because Rishi Sunak would be very keen to say, right, the reason that all these people want to go from Northern Ireland into Ireland is that they've understood the deterrent factor of the Rwanda agreement. Therefore, they want to go to somewhere where they won't be kicked out, hence Ireland. However, at the same time, we continue to see crossings from Calais and the other channel ports across to Dover and the English channel ports. So it's unclear whether the deterrent is really working. I'm sure Sunak would like it to be the case, but the jury is out on that one.
Iain Begg, thank you for your clarity on what is a very complicated issue. Although you say it's quite simple to resolve, maybe we should put you in charge and try and get a resolution. We really need one, don't we? Thank you so very much for joining us. Iain Begg, Professor at the European Institute at the London School of Economics. We appreciate your time, so we appreciate your very calm analysis of the situation too, complicated as it is for we mere mortals. Iain Begg there from the LSE.
Thank you for listening to me.
Pleasure, sir. Absolute pleasure. And thanks to you for watching too. Do stay with us.